All right, everyone. I know we're all feeling a little iffy from our midterm exams, but whatever we got, it's whatever. Let's move on to week 9 with the entitlement of the next generation. Since there hasn't been a lot of research done on the elite's parenting style, our data comes from a majority of the middle and upper middle class. We're going to explore how each of these types of affluent families have used their resources to cultivate their children's behavior and shape them into what would be considered a decent human being. From the outside perspective, when we think of the rich, we, the average person, see those with wealth at a young age and oftentimes assume and expect these people to be out of touch with reality, spoiled, entitled, and lack basic survival skills in any applicable sense of the word. From never knowing how to do their own laundry, to never having to actually apply for a job because mommy and daddy provide everything so they don't have to do anything to be considered successful according to the standards of society. These kids are handed everything with a silver spoon as if they're entitled to it, like the opportunity to shadow a doctor that's their dad's friend, rather than applying to a shadow for any program and get possibly rejected. These kids are rushed to the front of the lines and show no remorse for others and those who could have been granted the same opportunity, but weren't because they don't have the luxury of having parents who are as well connected as they are.
Bunch of rich kids thought being homeless was easy, so they were tossed on the street to put it to the test. 12 young adults, most of whom inherited their wealth, all had the same thought when it came to homeless people, that they're just lazy and homelessness is a choice. Their goal was to give up their luxury lifestyle and to survive for 3 nights with no access to their money, shelter, or a phone. They all thought they could get off the streets in no time with a bit of hard work. One contestant gave up on the first night after failing to find a clean place to sleep. Another had a genius business plan to beg his way into enough capital to buy umbrellas and sell it to tourists at a markup, then use that money to spend the rest of the time in a hotel room. After a full day of begging, he only received £5. One went into a restaurant to ask for free food, which he got, then immediately started talking about how he wouldn't let his employees give out free food if he owned the business.
Past studies show that this population of elites and very affluent middle and upper middle class families often shower their kids with extreme care and attention, which one researcher had described as concerted cultivation, where involvement and guidance play a big role in shaping the kids' well-being and maintaining the origins of their social advantages. This study also drives to answer the question of how to raise their children into good and respected individuals, where their class consciousness is not being exploited through the use of their upbringing.
Researchers say parents also struggle with the definition of cultivation, particularly on the concept of expansion. Elite parents expose their kids to frequent opportunities and experiences, as well as providing more attention and access to skill development. However, these parents often struggle to identify the quantitative value of skills, not knowing when to stop or how much is enough for both themselves and their children. They are also constantly unsure of how to appear normal socially.
Starting from a young age, kids who have been granted more access to material advantages often see themselves as better than others, resulting in them acting entitled. Parents see this toxic behavior and immediately try to correct it in order to make them act like other kids who don't have the same material advantages. Affluent-born kids automatically get greater advantages without earning them via their inheritance, which results in the necessity to implement humility as a characteristic in their upbringing. This will create true, legitimate privilege, where these kids understand how to handle and navigate themselves within their advantageous foundation in the general public without standing out.
So quickly, we're going to go over definitions here, and the 2 terms that we're going to clarify is constraint versus exposure. Constraint in this study and in this scenario means to limit the kids' consumption of goods, experiences, and labor. As for example, limiting the financial spending of the children in the hope that this would constrain the kids' sense of entitlement in some ways. And exposure, meaning to expose the kids to other experiences and individuals from every broad spectrum, socially and economically, in thinking and in reasoning, ideas and various measures, in order to help them visualize and appreciate their upbringings, as well as to understand their social location and to see for themselves the concept of normality structurally.
The majority of participants expressed concerns about how to manage wealth ethically through hard work, moderate consumption, and philanthropy. They repeatedly discuss how to raise morally worthy children and often use the word entitled in negative ways, showing awareness of inequality and a desire to prevent moral corruption. Some will say children of wealthy families are, again, entitled or spoiled, but they have never known anything else for their whole lives. They've always had everything done for them, like their dishes, their laundry, and their beds. On the other hand, children of working-class parents often grow up in households with limited financial resources, and their parents might work long hours or even multiple jobs, leaving them less time for supervision or bonding activities. Unfortunately, they also experience stigma or class-based discrimination in social settings.
The way these parents attempt to reduce the stigma is by teaching their kids the fundamentals of what is considered desirable qualities in the general public. This could be things like being nice without an incentive or a financial gain, working hard with or without a foreseen reward, giving respect to other people regardless of their socioeconomic background, and finally, having humility by not showing off to those less fortunate, since it looks snobby and like a who's better than who contest. On the other hand, we can look at expansion where the desire to blend in with the general public completely goes out of the window. Those who can afford it don't just look for their kids to be on the same level as everyone else, because they're not. Parents choose to maximize the opportunities they're able to give their kids and give them a much better and full life by doing things like taking them to exotic locations for travel, granting access to the best tutors and teachers money can buy, and access to better life paths like being given a higher chance at admission in grand institutions. Like, yeah, we all want to be on the same level and equal as everyone because that's fair, but guess what? Life isn't fair, and no one starts on the same level either. The real question is, who wouldn't, if given the opportunity, do what they can to better themselves socially and economically in order to set themselves up for life and go wherever they want with no constraints? This brings us to our discussion question of how do elite parents attempt to raise morally correct children while both challenging and reinforcing systems of class inequality?